Well, hello everyone. Glad to see everybody here. Gunnar, good to see you. Steve, nice to see that you hopped on here tonight. And then Christopher, he threw something into the chat and said that he's going to be moving down here in the next week and he wanted to join. So really appreciate a new guy jumping in here. Welcome to the community. We have a lot of fun here every Thursday. We pretty much just talk uh, inshore saltwater fishing and just have a good time here. So we keep it pretty casual. So Chris, welcome. Hope you get something out of this. And if you have any questions, throw them up into the chat box. And guys, that goes for everybody. This is kind of your show. If you have any questions, throw them up there. Last week was Thanksgiving, and I actually did a show. I pre-recorded a show and I put it up on Spotify. So if you guys haven't heard that yet, you can go over to Spotify, just search DCO Live, and it'll pop up. And I actually talked about pre and post cold front fishing. So if you guys are interested in that topic, you can go over there and give that a listen. I think it was only about 15 or 20 minutes. I kept it pretty short. And if you watch it on the video side, I did bring up a surface weather map and kind of showed highs and low pressures and how they worked in conjunction with each other and how that moves the winds around and cools and warms things up. So slide over there to Spotify, check that out. Again, search DCO Live and I'll pop right up. So, guys, I did throw out a reminder on my YouTube community about tonight, and if there was any questions, to go ahead and throw them into the comments. And I did get a few, which I really appreciate that, and I wrote these down. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to jump right into some of these questions that came in. So John Richardson 7195 says, I use an FG knot to connect braid to mono. What do you use? So when I use my connecting knot from my braid to my leader is an Albright knot. That's the knot that is the easiest for me. I can take that knot and I can, cut and put on a new leader literally probably within a minute. I can almost do it with my eyes closed. I just can't see to put the tag in through the loop if I have my eyes closed. But the Albright knot is what I use. I've never had that knot fail, so that's what I use. The FG knot, I have tried to tie it. I can't do it. It's something that I just can't do. I tried it several times. It's taken me a while to do it when I did do it. And so I just searched fishing knots and started watching a bunch of YouTube guys. And there's one that's actually, I think the channel is called How To. And you can actually search how to fishing knots, and the Albright knot comes up. And it is a great little tutorial. It's about 2 minutes long, shows you how to tie it. It is really simple. The knot is small. I don't have any problems with it going through the guides, and especially with my casting rod, the guides are smaller, and I don't have any problems casting and that knot hitting the guides going out through those smaller guides. So I use the FG knot for braid to leader, and then from my leader to my lure, there are two knots that I use. My main knot that I use, and this is 99% of the time, is the old clinch knot, fisherman's knot, clinch knot, whatever you want to call it, the improved clinch knot. That's the one that I use. The other one that I use sometimes is a loop knot. I don't use it very often because, again, my loops are so inconsistent. Sometimes I get a nice little small loop, and other times I'll get like a loop that's like an inch long, and I'm just not consistent with it. The only time that I really use a loop knot is on like a mirror lure twitch bait, something that gives me a little bit more action to it with that loop knot, or maybe a top water. But I had a guy give me a tip for a topwater lure, that if you put a split ring on, that split ring onto the lure, and then just tie a clinch knot onto that split ring, it almost acts like a loop knot. So that's a little bit of a tip that I got from somebody. And yeah, and in a matter of fact, one of the, I don't have it over there hanging on the wall, but one of my Head and Spook Juniors, I've got a split ring on, and I just tie a clinch knot on it. And I don't have a problem with the action of a topwater bait with a clinch knot. I just, I don't see a difference. Some guys swear by it. You know, if you're confident with a loop knot on your top waters, tie it. It's all about confidence and confidence in a bait. So, but those are the knots that I use. So yeah, I don't tie the FG. There's a bunch of different knots out there. Use what you're comfortable with and that you have success with. That's what I say. It being, an Albright knot. There's an SC knot, like Sam Charlie SC knot. The FG knot, the Albright knot, the Alberto knot. There's a ton of them. So just be proficient with the knot that you use, and the one that you have confidence in. John Davis asked, he watched my last video, and he said, hey, we're getting into wintertime. What kind of winter clothes do you wear when you're out fishing? Well, when I'm out fishing during the wintertime, I layer up. Down here in South Carolina, you can go out in the morning and it can be 30 degrees, and then it warms up, 55, almost 60. Well, if I only have like a big jacket or something on, if I pull that big jacket off, then I may be cold. I can at least pull layers off as I get warm. So that's what I do. I put on like a base layer, like an Under Armour base layer. It's almost like a spandex base layer. You guys probably know what I'm talking about. It clings right to the body, and then I'll do some kind of, long sleeve mock turtleneck, something like that, and then a fishing shirt, and then some kind of a jacket, and then I just pull layers off as I'm getting warm. I will use some kind of a beanie, toboggan, stocking cap on my head, to keep my ears warm, because these big old ears that stick out, man, they get cold pretty quick. And then gloves, which I just ordered, and hopefully I have them here in about a week or 10 days, is the NRS gloves, and it's like a neoprene glove, but the thumb, index finger, and the middle finger, you can like peel back half of the finger to expose some of your fingertips so that you have a little bit of feel. I've never used them before. They look great. Other guys swear by them. And yeah, so I ordered me a pair. They cost me about 50 bucks, and I'm going to give them a try and see what they're like. Steve says that he wears breathable waders with flannel PJs. That's great. The flannel PJs, I don't have any, so why not? Yeah, absolutely. Keith, he said the AFCO Reaper is awesome in cool, cold weather. Now, what is the Reaper? Is it a jacket? I'm not exactly sure what the Reaper is. If you can throw that up in the chat box. Um, Steve said much better neoprene. Yeah, yep, exactly. So, cold weather, the one thing that I always tell people is boots. When it comes to cold weather, and especially you kayak guys, having wet feet is horrible, especially when it's cold. Get yourself a good pair of waterproof boots and get them on your feet. There is nothing worse than being out there on the water with cold, wet feet and it's 30 degrees or 40 degrees. So I use the NRS boundary boots. I think they're awesome. I haven't found a better boot. If you guys have different boots, throw them up into the chat so we can let these guys know. But that's what I use. But there's all kinds of rubber boots out there that you guys can wear. But definitely make sure that you're protecting your feet. Keith said it's a sweatshirt with a built-in face mask. Oh, no kidding. Okay, I did not know that. So the AFCO Reaper is a sweatshirt with a built-in face mask. I am actually going to write that down. I'm gonna get me one and try it out. Appreciate it, Keith. Thanks, man. Yeah, the NRS boundary boot. It's a great boot. It really is for wintertime. And then once it really starts to warm up, I switch over to almost like a water sock. Just some kind of a shoe to protect my feet. Because those boundary boots can get pretty hot. Your feet can start to sweat in them, and that's not very good, especially when you get home. Those boots stink, man. I kick those off by the back door, and my wife throws them outside because they're a little bit ripe. So, yeah, letting those feet sweat during the summer in those boundary boots, it doesn't fare well at the end of the day. So, yeah. So moving on. Sorry. Young Stomata, he asks recommendations fishing flounder in winter versus summer. So this is the time of the year right now that, especially with this cold front or these cold fronts that have been passing through, and you guys know as well as I do, this past week it's been cold. It has been, I woke up one morning, it was 24 degrees, frost on the ground. It's been cold. These big female flounder, this is the time of the year that they are going to be moving offshore to go and spawn. A lot of the smaller male flounder will follow them out. They'll do their thing. They'll fertilize their eggs. The females will stay offshore, but the males will venture back into the creeks. So come January and February, if you're catching flounder, most of the time, if you're in the creeks, they're not going to be really any bigger than about 14 inches, and those are the males. When I talk to guys coming in, those, the conversation is about, yeah, I caught flounder, but they were all short. Yeah, exactly. They're the males, and they're going to be in the creeks. If you are looking for bigger female flounder to catch, you need to be in deeper water, jetties, near shore, offshore. That's where they go. And then come about, I'm going to say April-ish, depending on when that weather really starts to warm up. And, we start getting right around that 60-degree water temperature, 70-degree water temperature. Those big females will start moving back into the skinny water and those creeks, and then it's on. So yeah, wintertime, Steve was saying it's all about the bait. So Steve, if you can, what kind of bait are you using during the wintertime to target flounder? If you could throw that up there, I'd love to share it with them. But, during the wintertime, I am not targeting flounder because I know the bigger flounder aren't in there. Trout and redfish. Redfish is really what I target during the wintertime because now's the time is when they're really going to start schooling up and you can find these big schools of redfish. So yeah, wintertime, I target, I start shifting my species more towards redfish. And then, the bycatch is always, the smaller flounder, some trout in some of these creeks and where they drop off into some deeper water, you'll pick up some trout right there. So, yeah, great questions. And again, man, I'm actually I can't stop thinking about that AFCO Reaper. Man, I'm I'm going to be getting one of those on the road probably tomorrow morning when I get up. I'm going to be jumping on and ordering me one of those. So Keith, I really appreciate that, and that's what this community is all about. So sharing everybody's experiences and what guys are using and having success with. So yeah, really appreciate that. So I do actually have a couple of topics that I do want to go over tonight. And with it getting into wintertime, one of the things that I thought about was safety equipment, and especially for kayakers. You guys who are in and riding these kayaks and out in this colder water, um, safety equipment is paramount, and and I take safety very, very serious when I am out on the water. So, number one for me when I am heading out on the water is I make a plan and I tell someone. I tell them my location, where I'm going and launching from, the time I'm getting on the water, and the time that I got off the water, excuse me. So usually it's my wife, and I will say, hey, listen, I am leaving out of the Oyster Recycling Center. She knows where that is. And I'm leaving at 6:30, and I'll be off sometime right around noon. And anytime that I am later than noon, 12:30, I will shoot her a text and just let her know, hey, listen, I'm going to be another hour. I'll let you know. And, so I am in constant contact with her. So, guys, make a plan and tell somebody where you're going. So, if anything would ever happen, you know, God forbid, if something would happen and if you would go missing or whatever, they at least have a place to start looking. So that is the most important that I can, right off the bat, make a plan and tell somebody. Second, have your cell phone with you and have it tethered on either your kayak or your life jacket, but have your cell phone with you and have it charged. I don't think I have been to an area where I fish up and down the coast where I have had dead areas where my cell phone didn't work. My cell phone has always worked. I am near shore. The signal's always been good. So, guys, my second safety equipment is a cell phone. Third, your PFD. Please wear a life jacket. There's always stories a couple times a year where somebody loses their life and they don't have a life jacket on. Please have your life jacket and wear it. It's imperative, especially for us in these small boats. They get tippy, especially when wakes come by and these boats come by. You can roll these things over and you don't know what's going to happen. So please, life jacket, make a plan, cell phone. Secondly, in South Carolina, you do have to have a life jacket and you have to have a whistle. So make sure that you go get a whistle. You can go get a whistle anywhere. Walmart, Palmetto Armory, I know they've got whistles. Bass Pro Shop has whistles. I've got mine on a carabiner right on my life jacket. And so my whistle is right on me. Another piece of equipment is a knife or a multi-tool. So I usually carry both. I usually have a knife somewhere in my kayak, and I have my multi-tool on my belt. Yeah, so that's usually what I carry with me. You don't know when you're going to have to cut something. I have heard of a story of a guy who rolled his kayak, had his line and lure in the water, and he got tangled up in his line, and he had to cut the line off of him to like untangle his feet. So you never know what's gonna happen out there. So have a knife, have a multi-tool, have something with you. Um, Man, you guys are really knocking through a few things here. Vike Fishing, good to see you, man. Good to see you. I'm glad you jumped in. Um, Yeah, so Steve just said, yeah, I'm very lucky. I have a buddy I always leave a float plan with. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. have a buddy, go with a buddy. That's always even better. Two is better than one, definitely. So, to continue on with the list, so after knife and multi-tool, some kind of a flag. I have a flag on my kayak, and it just gives you a little bit more visibility on the water, especially for boats. A lot of times, you come around corners and you set just low enough where people can't see you. You're not sitting high in a boat, and that flag will set, maybe 2, 3, 4 feet higher than you, and they'll be able to see that. And that flag gives movement, which will catch somebody's eye. So a flag is always good. And also, in coordination with that, lights. So on the flag that I have, it's the Yak Attack flag. You guys all know it, and it's got a white light, a 360-degree white light on the top. And which is fantastic. So, low light conditions, first thing in the morning before the sun really starts to come up, kick that light on. And also having the red and green nav lights. There's all kinds of companies that you can get these little red and green nav lights you can put on your kayak. Guardian Angel is one of them. If you follow any of the Facebook or Instagram, those ads pop up all the time. You can also get them on Amazon. You can just search, red and green lights for kayaks or boats, and pages and pages of these lights come up. So, red and green light, nav lights, and the white light, the Yak Attack flag with the white light is fantastic. And then the last thing that I thought about was a small first aid kit. I have one in the front of my kayak, and it's really probably no bigger. It's a little bit bigger than my cell phone. But it just has some bare essentials, a few little band-aids and maybe some gauze, I think, is in it, and some tape. But that's kind of about it. You get a hook buried deep into you and you can't get it out, or you get a little squeamish like I do, and you really don't have the courage to yank this thing out, you're going to need to secure that hook, and so that you can get yourself to the emergency room and get that out. But I know I'm going to catch some comments about that, like, man, just rip it out, it comes right out. But oh man, I don't know. I can't do it. I can't do it, especially to myself. I've done it to my dad. My dad got hooked in the finger one time, and I know he's probably watching this. But yeah, he had a bass on, and he went to de-hook him. He was on a small little jerk bait, and he shook and he buried that hook in his finger. I ended up cutting the hook off, and then we numbed his finger, and the hook was past the barb, so we actually had to run it through his finger and then pull it out the other side. And man, I'll never forget that. We had to take a few little bourbon shots to get us both a little lubed up to make sure we could do that. But yeah, that wasn't a fun day. That wasn't a fun day. Schwinn quick wrap bike lights are on my flagpole. Oh, okay. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there are all kinds of things that you can do. Steve even said flares. I know a couple of guys who take their kayaks offshore, and if you go offshore, there's other things that you need, and I think flares is one of them. And another one is it's a UAF radio. I hope I said that right. But it's basically like a marine radio that you guys need to carry. If you're going offshore in your kayak or your boat, make sure you have one of those radios with you. So, yeah, good stuff there. Good stuff. So, yeah, so that's kind of my bare essential first aid stuff. We can add to it, whatever you guys feel comfortable taking in and out there. But those are the things that I have with me every time I'm out on the water. They don't take up any room at all. I've got a lot of this stuff into that front hatch that I don't even really get into. That's where my Knockwell battery is. And now, the one thing that I will add going into winter that I will throw up into that front hatch is a dry bag with a dry shirt and a dry jacket. If for some reason I roll my kayak and I go into the water, I'm going to want some dry clothes to put on, because if it's cold out, I at least want dry shirt, dry jacket, and maybe even some pants or something to slip on to get out of those wet clothes, because hypothermia is a real thing. I've had it hiking in the mountains one year, and it's not fun. It's the real deal, and you just don't want to mess with it, especially when you're out on the water. So that's something that I will be adding into the kayak going into wintertime. So yeah, so kind of move on to my next topic is I was listening to a podcast on Monday, and there were two guys. They were talking bass fishing, and one guy was talking about how he went out and he got skunked, and he just talked about how he hates getting skunked out. It ruins his day, and he just went on and on and on about getting skunked, and that got me thinking of, is getting skunked really a bad day of fishing? And to me, I don't think it is, because when I get skunked out, I think that's when I learn the most. Now, I'm in a little bit different situation because I film my entire day. So I can go back, and which I do a lot of the time. Now, not every time, but a lot of the times I will go back and I will review a day or a portion of the day fishing to see what my technique was. Should I have slowed down? Was I fishing too fast? Was I not fishing in the right areas? Which, more than likely, if I wasn't catching fish, where was I fishing? Was I fishing creek mouths and not catching anything? Should I have been fishing grass line? Should I have been fishing deeper? Should I have went shallower? Should I have pushed back into creeks? So I use those days to really, think about how I can change and do different on the water when I go out the next time. So getting skunked is not a bad thing. And, I actually dropped a comment in to that guy and was like, I don't think it's a bad thing. That's how you learn. If you always have a good day, I don't think you learn from the bad days. Adversity is good. Adversity is good. I don't know if you guys know who Jocko Willink is, a little bit of a sidebar, but he was a Navy SEAL and now he does motivational speaking. And he has a video out and it's called Good. And when anything that doesn't go your way or it's a bad day, he says, good. Now you can look at it a little different. You didn't get your promotion? Good. Now you can work harder to get better at what you're doing. You didn't catch fish today? Good. What did you need to do different? Go back and study the film. Make yourself better. So if you guys pull up Jocko Willink and look for that video, I think you can pull it up. I think it's just called Good. It's about a 30-second video and it's awesome. But I think he's right on the money. You guys, that's how I learn. And, again, I go back and I study the film and change things up the next time. What were the weather conditions like? If the next weekend, if the weather conditions are the same, I'll change it up. And that's how you learn, and that's how you become a better fisherman. And yeah, Steve said it. It's fishing. That's exactly what it is, man. It's fishing. So yeah, Everett, he says, I just enjoy being out there. You got that right. There's been a couple of guys who said, who dropped some comments in and said, man, you're very lucky and blessed to live right on the coast and be 20 minutes away and jump out on the water. And I am. Very much so. I love being this close to the water and being able to jump out there and do what I love. So, I am not the best fisherman in the world. I'm just not. I learn every time that I go out there. I'm just a guy who films my fishing trips, and that's it. I've been doing it for a long time, little tips and techniques and talking to other guys and meeting guys like Steve. I know that I point Steve out a lot, and Steve, I'm going to be talking to you this week. There's a little bit of a preview for you guys. Somebody may be coming on here in the next couple of weeks, but meeting Steve out on the water and talking to him and being able to pick his brain and learning from guys who are definitely better than you. That's how you learn. Don't be afraid to walk up to guys and ask questions. I love it. I'm loading up the kayak and guys will come up and ask all kinds of questions. I love it. It's a great way to learn. So, guys, that's the 30 minutes. So again, I like to keep it right at that 30 minutes. And again, I appreciate each and every one of you guys. Go over to Spotify and check out that one episode that I put out there. Again, I thought it was pretty good. If you have any questions, comments, anything that you guys see and learn about pre-front or post-front cold front fishing, man, you can't get that out. So, shoot me a comment. You guys know that I jump on, I answer all my comments. Again, with it coming up to Christmas time, I still have really just a few dead calm outdoor hats left. I think I have maybe one in each color. Hit me up on Facebook, Instagram, send me a message, and I'll get you a hat out to you. So, guys, I really appreciate each and every one of you. I will see you next week, 8 o'clock, and we'll do it all again. If you guys have questions, hit me early. I write them down. I put them on my notes page, and we'll get to it. So, guys, really appreciate you. Get your Christmas shopping done. I'm almost done. So, guys, I'll see you next week. Really appreciate you, and tight lines.